Welcome back to Ghost Pirate Entertainment. I'm your host, Kanan Becker, and today we do another deep dive into Shudder. And let's get to the list. The Apology is a 2022 dramatic thriller. Written and directed by Alison Locke, it stars Anna Gunn, Linus Roche, and Janine Garofalo. 20 years after the disappearance of her daughter, a recovering alcoholic is preparing to host her family's Christmas celebration when her estranged ex-brother-in-law arrives unannounced, bearing nostalgic gifts and heavy secrets.
This month is the 20th anniversary of Sally's disappearance.
Why do they call it an anniversary like it's something to celebrate?
This is a dark, disturbing, uncomfortable movie, but also very entertaining in a lot of ways because it goes into some really dark, unsettling things and it doesn't really hold back much. It goes there, but it's also pretty exciting, especially considering it doesn't ever leave this one location and it only has a couple characters. But it's well written and wonderfully performed. This cast do an absolutely amazing job in it. So if you're a fan of uncomfortable, dramatic horror movies, then this is one to definitely add to your list. The Cleansing Hour is a 2019 supernatural horror movie. Directed by Damien Levesque, it stars Kyle Gallner, Ryan Guzman, and Alex Angelis. The story is about two entrepreneurs who stage fake, elaborate exorcisms until one night when one of their girlfriends becomes possessed by a demon.
And cut. Nice job, everybody. Good show.
This movie is so much fun. It has really great visuals and weird creature kind of elements to it, as well as some really exciting exorcism elements. But it's very different than a lot of exorcism movies because I've grown pretty tired of most of these exorcism movies out there. They're just a dime a dozen. There's so many of them. And every one of them just seems to be basically ripping off The Exorcist. But this movie doesn't. This movie goes in a different direction and does some really unique things. Now, don't get me wrong, this is a pretty small movie. It's not huge special effects. It really takes place in just one location with a couple characters. But they do a fantastic job working with what they have. And there's a lot of really unique wrinkles and twists that just give it a very fresh, original feel. But this definitely isn't anything to overthink or pick apart. It's just one to have a good time with. But if you have yet to see this little gem, then definitely get on it and check it out.
It's not a gift, Izzy.
Then why was it given?
I'm not afraid of you, Izzy.
You will be.
Hellbender is a 2022 supernatural horror movie. Written, directed, and starring John Adams, Zelda Adams, and Toby Poser. The story follows a mother and daughter rock band living in an isolated woodland home, whose relationship is challenged when the daughter encounters other teenagers. I absolutely love this movie, and I've recommended it on this channel a couple times, but I still feel like not enough of you guys have seen it because this movie is so good. And it's wild that the Addams family created this movie during lockdown because they wrote it, directed it, acted in it, like they did it all. I think they even edited it, and that's just absolutely so incredible. But beyond that, it's just a really well executed movie. Even the music in this movie is a lot of fun. The visuals, the style, the pacing, everything about it has a fresh, unique flavor and style. It's exciting yet disturbing, uncomfortable, and even just gross at times. As far as witchy folk horror movies go, this is one of the best in recent memory, and I highly recommend it.
tiene que tener sangre en las manos, no en este lugar. A estos seres les gusta la sangre.
Terrified is a 2017 Argentine horror movie. Written and directed by Damien Rugna, it stars George Lewis, Maximiliano Gioni, and Natalia Cinerales. The plot concerns paranormal researchers who investigate strange events in a neighborhood in Buenos Aires.
Los fenómenos paranormales.
This movie is chilling. I've heard about it for a while, but I just finally checked it out. And even from the beginning, the opening scene is just absolutely horrifying. But this entire movie, it gets going from the jump. This movie doesn't mess around, doesn't have a long setup. It pretty much gets into it and just stays full throttle the whole time because there is one scary, uncomfortable, creepy scene after another. And the cast do a great job of conveying the terror that they're going through. It is in Spanish, so you will have to read subtitles, but I very much think it's worth it because this is one of the more scary paranormal movies I've seen in a long time. So if you're looking for a creepy ghost story, you can't go wrong with this. So definitely add it to your list.
Frightened, dear.
Can't let you go, miss.
It's quite beautiful, you know.
Offseason is a 2021 supernatural horror movie. Written and directed by Mickey Keating, it stars Jacqueline Donahue, Joe Swansburg, Richard Brake, and Melora Walters. After receiving a mysterious letter, a woman travels to a desolate island town and soon becomes trapped in a nightmare.
Please come at once. Your mother's grave has been vandalized.
This is an emergency. I have to get to the cemetery as soon as possible. Please.
This is a moody, atmospheric, creepy little movie. Just full of atmospheric horror. That vibe that movies like The Fog have. Just that creepy seaside town full of fog, atmospheric way. And it's one of my favorite styles of horror, where there's scenes at night with it foggy and you just can't quite see what's out there. That just has the most creepy, haunting feeling to me. Even in the real world, when I walk around on a foggy night, there's just something so fun but creepy as hell about that. But this isn't anything crazy. It's a pretty small story, but it's well put together, well told, well paced. Like I said, it looks fantastic and the cast do a great job in it as well. It gets pretty exciting and goes into some directions I did not see coming. Just in general, this is a really fun little hidden gem that absolutely deserves your time.
He's in the room.
Let him get a little closer to you. Inhale. And on my mark.
Fire!
See For Me is a 2021 Canadian dramatic thriller. Directed by Randall Okita, it stars Skylar Davenport, Jessica Parker Kennedy, and Kim Coates. The story's about Sophie, a visually impaired teenager who is house sitting for a wealthy client. When three criminals break into the house to rob it, Sophie's only defense is a smartphone app called See For Me.
Download See For Me.
Hey, what can I do for you?
Hi, I'm locked out. Do you see a way I can get back in?
Let's move around the perimeter. You're right in front of a sliding glass door. Can you feel it?
This was a surprising, entertaining movie because it's exciting and goes into some really interesting directions, much more so than I expected it to. And the idea of it is kind of a gimmick. You know, she can't see, and so she's got to talk on the phone to this girl who is able to see through her phone, and the two of them have to kind of figure out this situation together. But they were able to use that in some pretty creative ways, and it ended up being a good time. Now, don't get me wrong, this isn't anything wild. It's a pretty small movie. It's definitely not anything you would expect to see in theaters. But for a small movie that went straight to Shudder, I thought it was really well done. I especially enjoyed the cast in this. I thought they had really great chemistry and really lifted this to another level. So if you're looking for an exciting little thriller, I think you'll really be entertained by it. So you should definitely add this to your list.
It's almost like having a family.
Are you okay?
What are you doing? The Stylist is a 2020 horror drama. Written and directed by Jill Gavarzian, it stars Nahara Townsend and Bria Grant. It tells the story of a lonely hairstylist who secretly murders and scalps her clients.
I wish my hair would do that. But we all want what we don't have.
This is one of those really surprising films that you just don't hear anyone talk about, and it's absolutely wild to me. It's way different than I ever expected it to be. It's much more powerful, dramatic, and just really, really intense. Because Nahara Townsend goes so hard in this movie. Like, honestly, her performance in this deserved an Academy Award nomination. It's that good. It's so intense and uncomfortable and powerful and just goes in so many different directions and deals with some really intense themes. And even though it's mostly a dialogue-driven movie, it never, ever felt slow. The entire time I was just so engrossed into it and just could not take my eyes off of the screen. This is an intense, fantastic movie that I highly, highly recommend.
Trick or treat.
Anything for Jackson is a 2020 supernatural horror movie. Directed by Justin G. Dyke and written by Keith Cooper. It stars Sheila McCarthy, Julian Richings, and Constantina Mantelis. The story's about a couple who hatch a supernatural scheme to resurrect their dead grandson through abducting a pregnant woman.
Hello, my name is Audrey, and this is my husband Henry. We don't want to hurt you or your baby. We feel this would be the best way for you to go missing.
This was one of the rare highlights from 2020 for me because it was a dark time, but this movie was so entertaining. And I've talked about it a few times on the channel because I just love it that much. I've been a big fan of Juliana Richings ever since his performance as Death on Supernatural. And once again, he just knocks it out of the park in this movie. But so does Sheila McCarthy. The two of them just play these really lovable, awesome characters, but yet they're terrifying in this really sweet, disturbing, weird way. It has a quirky, dark sense of humor, but don't get it wrong, this movie goes hard. It has some really twisted visuals as well. I honestly think you'll be really surprised by this movie because it's so much better than most people expect. I think it's a real treasure and an absolute must watch.
I don't want to be remembered as a douchebag.
Deadstream is a 2022 found footage horror comedy. Written and directed by Joseph and Vanessa Winter, it stars Joseph Winter and Melanie Stone. A disgraced internet personality tries to win back his audience by live streaming himself at an abandoned haunted house when he accidentally unleashes a vengeful spirit.
This is Sean Ruddy coming to you live from Death Manor.
This was so fun. I talked about it back in October, I believe it was, when it first dropped. But it's such a good one that I had to talk about it again because I still feel like a lot of people have yet to see it. And I get it. There's a lot of people that are just tired of found footage. And so they hear found footage and they just immediately just push it to the side and go, hey, not into found footage, move on. But this is not like most found footage movies. It's done in a really fresh, kind of unique way that actually feels believable because he sets up these cameras and it feels very much like a live stream. Like you can go on YouTube right now and punch in, haunted live stream and you'll see a bunch of people doing the same type of thing that you see on Twitch or YouTube or just multiple places. They do this exactly like this and it's set up exactly like this. And kind of a new way of doing found footage that I just thought was really believable and really well executed. But this movie also goes way harder than most found footage movies. It has some really fun practical effects, creature, mask designs, weird stuff you just don't really see much in the found footage variety. But it's also funny as hell, but not in a trying too hard way. This feels organically funny, and to me, that's the best kind of comedy in my horror. I don't want it to feel like a horror comedy as much as I want to feel like I'm watching a horror movie that has comedy in it, and that's what this feels like. But it's strange because this movie starts out and it feels like you're just not gonna like the main character. He just feels really unlikable, really smarmy, like the people you don't like that feel too phony and this and that about social media and about the creator platform. But then it kind of reels you in. You start to kind of see who this guy really is, and that he does have a heart, and that he really does care, and that he doesn't want to be, like he says, a douchebag. So I think if you give it a chance and really just kind of wait it out, you'll find yourself having an absolute blast with this movie. This is one that I could not recommend higher. It is so fun, and one that I highly recommend. In Search of Darkness 3 is a 2023 horror documentary written and directed by David A. Weiner and is the third part of the In Search of Darkness documentary series. The film explores the development and lasting impact of the horror genre during the 1980s and features numerous interviews from icons of horror.
Play.
If you're someone like me that just adores, loves the horror genre, and especially the 1980s, especially people that are a little bit older like me that grew up in that 80s, 90s era, then this is an absolute must watch because it'll talk about a ton of the movies you already love, and it does some behind the scenes stuff. It's a fun little, snapshot of that. And then you also get to hear people interviewed that were in those movies or know little fun stories about those. But then it also talks about movies that you might not have known about, because there was definitely a bunch of movies during this 3-part documentary that I hadn't seen or heard of, especially in this third part, because this third part is the most deep dive of them all. Part 1 was kind of the on the surface, the ones that the majority of horror fans know about. The second one went a little bit deep and was just a little bit underground, movies that a lot of us knew about, but not everybody. But now this one is one that even people that love 80s horror, there's still going to be some that more than likely you don't know about. And you might have heard but haven't seen and might have forgotten. Either way, it's a really fun dive. Just the 3-part series in general. I recommend watching all of them. But that's a total of 12 hours of footage, but I do think they're worth it. I absolutely love these. I personally watch them in like hour segments. I don't just sit there and watch it all, binge it all in one go. It's well produced and put together, and one I think you'll really have a good time with. One that's perfect for your weekend. So do yourself a favor, grab your popcorn and your candy and enjoy. Alright guys, that's going to do it for me today. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this, make sure you hit that subscribe button and ding that little bell, because that's the best way to keep track of this channel when I do videos like this. And I do videos like this every week. And I also want to give a huge, massive, enormous thank you to the Ghost Pirate crew, to you guys over on Patreon, and to the channel members over here, because you guys mean so much to me. And if you would like to find out how you can help support this channel over on Patreon, there's a link down in the description. Or if you want to help support the channel here as a member, a channel member, there's a little button right down there that says membership. But like always, thank you so much for watching. Please crush that like button, and remember guys, horror can be fun! If you enjoyed this, click right here to see 10 more recommendations on Tubi. And I'll see you guys next time!